If Punk shows up, do you just start the show with him doing a promo?
Nope. You gotta milk it to the last possible second. Not even a promo. Music hits at the end. He just stands at the top of the ramp with a smirk. Promo goes out on socials after.
And that was all before the first match.
When it comes to professional wrestling, if you are talking about it, we are talking about it. Welcome to the Wrestle Chat Podcast with the Ant-Man.
You know, it's not often that our text before a pay-per-view predicts to a T how the pay-per-view actually ends, but at Survivor Series, it most certainly did. Welcome to episode 35 of the Wrestle Chat Podcast. I'm your host, the Ant-Man, and for the foreseeable future, we shall call him and change his name to Nostradamus. Not only predicting that he'd come back, but predicting how it would happen. Michael Nostradamus Glavin, welcome back, Soothsayer. How are you?
I'm good, man. You know, as cool as Nostradamus is, obviously that is already a person. I think I'm going to go ahead and steal the name The Oracle.
The Oracle?
And just
sure.
I'm going to call myself The Oracle. No, it's good to be back. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about a very just lightning in a bottle week in professional wrestling. Nobody can guess at all what we're going to talk about this week, I'm sure.
Not at all.
But man, I'm excited to peel back the layers and jump into this with you.
Well, it's nice to know that you now have a wrestling name. I'm the Ant-Man, you're the Oracle. I like it. We always give our honest opinion on things that go down in the world of pro wrestling, and oftentimes we do agree. I'd say if either of us leaned one way or the other with CM Punk, or favorited one angle over the other in the past, you've tended to lean pro-Punk. I would say I've leaned anti-Punk. Not that I'm against CM Punk at all or hate his guts, and not that you worship the ground that he walks on, but that could kind of describe the tendencies with him that we've had, not getting into Raw or, the reveal just yet, but what was your first reaction to CM Punk standing in the spotlight at a WWE event, Michael?
Pure shock. I mean, you're right. I am, I lean to the pro side of CM Punk, and it was that lightning through my body, not to use that expression twice in a short time, but there are few things anymore that make me pop. Yeah. And man, I was laying down, cause I'm on I'm in East Coast time, but just flew out of bed in excitement and was just on my feet. And so the reaction was just this surge of adrenaline, just complete excitement. Reminds me of why, I'm a professional wrestling fan.
Well, and too, that we had heard, this is weeks leading up to it. All CM Punk's in talks to showing up at WWE. Is it going to be Survivor Series? Is it going to be Royal Rumble? There's no talks at all. Nothing is happening. Nobody's talking to CM Punk. But he was backstage at this one event, and then he was asked to leave, and then he showed up in Impact. I think he's going to Impact. What if he goes to New Japan and then just silence? And I think the silence is the biggest part of where things happen, is when you guys shut up for a little while and leave this alone and move on to something else. That's when we can work and we make some fun stuff for you. It still baffles me, though, that the return of CM Punk to WWE is the biggest social event in the company's history. Bigger than Stone Cold at WrestleMania 38 in Dallas. Bigger than The Rock's return just, like a month ago. This is the single biggest social event in the company's history. That in and of itself has to be, just a huge, I would say a major win for CM Punk. I mean, even Triple H described it as hell freezing over. Immediately, we saw several fan posts of Seth Rollins and his reaction to Punk being there, whether it be a work or a shoot. He was not happy. There's rumors that Drew blazed a trail out of there because of how upset he was CM Punk was there. At least that was the story that went along with him exiting the building. I've seen several responses from other superstars, though. When asked, they have responses that were, I would say political to tepid about his return to WWE, CM Punk's return anyway. If you had to guess what Punk thought of the talent responses to him coming back, what would you say those were?
Yeah, I think he would have had to have known that from a behind the curtain thing, it was going to be an uphill battle.
I would think so too. Yeah.
he definitely speaks his mind, and I'm sure that he means what he says, but at the same time, he is definitely a person that says the entirety of what he thinks, and sometimes the entirety of what we think is not intended to be amplified out of our mouths. And so, with that said, I don't think he has backtracking to do, because I think a lot of the things that he said, while harsh and blunt, were true when he said them about WWE and the way things were working and et cetera, so forth. The what was fine. The how we could raise some questions about, but I think he knew that he was going to have to make the rounds, shake some hands, kiss some babies. And I think, not to get too far ahead, but I have a feeling we're going to see a best behavior Punk for a while.
Well, that's boring. Saturday's buzz carried that momentum over, to Monday's Raw. But before we get there, we're going to make you wait, like they made you wait on CM Punk. We're going to make you wait. Before we get there, we need to talk the Man-Child Chronicles podcast. Yesterday, we saw a new episode drop for you, Ryan, John, and Jay, your cohorts on the Man-Child Chronicles podcast. What do we need to check out in this latest episode, Michael?
Well, we have found out that we really love jumping on live with everybody, being able to chat with people, hit the comments and everything. So this week, we ran live again earlier in the week, posted up a more polished version, that was produced on Friday, to kind of, for archive and long-term storage purposes, if you will. Really fun episode. Where we played Two Truths and a Lie.
Okay.
And then we also...
It's always fun.
It's great. And we also... I'll admit, and the guys on here, if watching this episode, I was not excited for this, but it turned out to be super fun. We did a draft of the best TV show themes of all time. and man, you don't realize how many absolute bangers are out there. So I'll tell you this, for this draft, we played all the songs live in real time. I want you to come join us, check the replay out from the live event, comment on it, subscribe if you hit us up on YouTube. It was a really, really fun time. You guys won't regret it.
You know what I was going to say? I was going to tell you this before we jumped on the podcast today, before we started recording, is we need to do a draft of the best intro songs, because I've had Cult of Personality stuck in my head since last Saturday night, and have just randomly in random places be singing it. We should do that sometime, and we'll take that cue for the Man-Child Chronicles. Listen, if you're watching this right now on YouTube, the Man-Child Chronicles podcast is easy to access. On our channel, we have a heading that says other channels that we love, and the Man-Child Chronicles podcast channel link is right there. Click on it, hit subscribe. You'll be glad you did. Sunday was a rough day in the world of pro wrestling. It's the day that we just had to wait, and guess what might happen if CM Punk was on Raw, and surely he was going to be on Raw. I mean, there was no way that he wasn't going to show up, right? Right. However, WWE did make us wait 2 hours and 50 minutes from the start of the show to finally hear something from the Second City Savior, but it wasn't the first time we heard his name in the ring that night. Seth, knowing that those social videos, those candid videos of him going off on CM Punk, did well. Maybe not to the extent that CM Punk's did, but he definitely knew that his feelings were out there in the Twitterverse. He just met the chance head on when he came out to the ring, mentioning it was the last time they ever wanted to hear that hypocrite's name. Michael, initial thoughts on not only Seth's viral video that was spreading around, but his mention of Punk and him being a hypocrite. What'd that make you think about?
Again, kind of referencing back to what I said earlier, dude speaks his mind. And I think for a lot of people, they're not happy with, somebody taking digs at people or the company or this, that, whatever. And when you're talking about that he was fighting for the competition a mere 3 months ago, there's some weirdness to that.
Yeah.
And we know that long before this was ever a thought or a possibility in any section of the multiverse, you know, Seth had some pretty critical things to say about CM Punk,
yeah,
you know, long before this ever could have been imagined. And so is there some real beef there? Yeah, I think there is. But the great thing is Seth is a professional. And if they got to do business together, I have no doubt that it's going to be safe and it's going to be, you know, captivating and it's going to make money. And so regardless about how they feel each other personally, if we end up seeing them square off, which it kind of feels like we will, I have high expectations for it.
Yeah, well, we already heard in this show, we had already heard from Randy, we heard from Seth, and we even heard from Cody Rhodes. And when there was only like 10 minutes, I think it was like 10 minutes left in the show, we heard the static and Cult of Personality hit. And for the first time in almost 10 years, we see CM Punk standing in a WWE ring with a live mic in his hand. We definitely know how dangerous that is with CM Punk. I want to know your honest opinion of what Punk had to say.
You know, I think it was the best that it possibly could have been. His promo was very polarizing. There were some people that wanted the Hellfire Brimstone version of Punk, and honestly, I didn't want that. You know, this is a celebratory homecoming of the voice of the voiceless. This is something we've waited for such a long time for. You know, love him or hate him, he is one of the most unique individuals, personality wise, that has ever been in the WWE. And when you look at his time from 2011 to 2014, he dominated our television screens. I mean, absolutely dominated. And, you know, he made waves when he debuted in AEW as the return to professional wrestling. But he said it best that, you know, coming back to WWE was not just coming back to professional wrestling like he did in AEW. This was coming home. Because while he was an indies guy, WWE is what put him on the large scale map. Sure. He was very famous in Ring of Honor, and I'm not taking any credit away from his time on the indies, but coming to WWE, they made him a superstar. And it was the perfect way to re-enter the WWE, to say, I missed you, I'm home. And then, you know, my favorite part, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money.
Okay, we're going to break this down a little bit, because here are my thoughts on this promo. Very candid, raw, real. It was safe. The promo was safe. He didn't ruffle any feathers with the promo. He did address what everybody expected him to address, and not directly. He didn't say Seth's name, but he obviously addressed that everybody loved him coming back. You know, even people kissed him on the mouth. Everybody, well, not everybody. There were some that didn't have that feeling. Some people who were scared, and which I thought was kind of cool. I like, because I think the best Punk that we ever get is when he has real beef with. I say real beef.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about wrestling world real, okay? So whatever real that is, when it's perceived that he has a real issue with somebody, that's the best Punk we get. Whether he is a heel or a face. Now, he does a really good job of being a heel and doing heelish things when he is a heel, but he's like a Steve Austin face, where it's like, don't take any BS, baby face. CM Punk. Yep. That's how he is when he's a face. And you know, I felt it was whitewashed. It was very friendly, which is fine. But to me, it didn't feel like either one of those Punks. It didn't feel like a heel Punk, and it didn't feel like the babyface Punk that we know him as and love him as, until the end. And you mentioned it. It was when he said, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money. Hang on a second. You just said that you came back home. First, you came back home to the place that 10 years ago you said was the worst thing to ever happen to you, mentally, physically. You go on your friend's podcast, who's no longer your friend anymore, and you completely trash the company that built you up, and you said it's the worst place ever, and now you're coming back and telling us that you're back home? WWE wants you to forget the past. Typically, in the past they have. But fans don't. They don't forget that kind of stuff. is he here for the fans? Well, he said he was. Remember, he said, I love you guys. You never stop chanting my name, and I love you for that. Or is he back to make money? Can it be both? Sure. But it felt like this was the script handed to Punk. You fill in the blanks. It's an ad lib, Punk. Go ahead and fill in the blanks, but this is what we want you to say, and you can fill in some places there. And then when he dropped the mic and looked in the camera, we saw CM Punk.
Yep.
And he was honest, and he was real and raw. What are you going to say?
Yeah, I definitely think he wove in and out of character throughout the segment because you mentioned it briefly a little bit ago. You know, he did go on this little side train. Well, you know, there's some people who are scared that I'm back because they know that they're dealing with the best in the world, or you know, he dropped some
the best in the world hasn't been in WWE in 10 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there was these moments where he wove in and out. I have no doubt that I think, to summarize what you said, I think that we're going to have to slowly turn up the heat to get back to the CM Punk that we all know and love. Just because he's feeling emotions, to your point, it sounds like him and Triple H have buried the hatchet. You know, we can get into a time whenever appropriate to talk about some of Triple H's comments in the press conference. But Triple H had some wise things to say, and it took me back to not to get sidetracked, but Vince McMahon on the Stone Cold podcast when WWE was producing it, you know, 8-10 years ago, whenever it was. And Vince McMahon was asked directly about CM Punk. And at the time, this was right after Punk was released, got the papers on his wedding day. We all know the story.
Yep.
And Vince apologized to Punk live, you know, on the air, but then also said, you know, I hope one day he comes back. And he said, this company and me are not about burning bridges. And he named people. He said, Hogan's come back.
Yeah.
The Ultimate Warrior's come back. And he rattled off a few others that escaped me in this moment. But I think time does fix a lot of things. And I think we're seeing, you know, not to make it all love and unicorns and rainbows, but we're seeing people grow up.
Yeah.
On both sides, on the company side and on the CM Punk side, and just saying, hey, you know what? You know, the fans are more important. Wrestling is more important. Let's do some business and let's make it matter.
Well, and I think too that, you know, I think we're going to see a lot of this same type of, this is just one promo that from what I understand was cut short because of the main event. So this is just one promo. I bet we see more of this type of promo in the foreseeable future. I mean that by saying just in the next few episodes of whatever he's on, whether it be SmackDown or Raw. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I wonder if that's not the direction they go, because the best time to have him turn into that face I was talking about, that's much like a Stone Cold baby face, would be for Seth just to come out and confront him. Enough of this crap. You know, you didn't think this place was home all this time ago, and that's where they get into it. Not to write a script for him, but I think that that's when we start seeing the quote-unquote real Punk. We've got more of CM Punk to talk about coming up a little bit later on here in the show, including speculation on what we believe could be next, and it will be pure speculation. We'll talk about that here in just a bit. But do you know who wasn't there for Punk's historic return on WWE Raw, on Monday Night Raw? That was Triple H and the CEO Nick Khan. Those two were busy in LA negotiating television rights deals, perceivably for the Raw brand. We know that SmackDown is coming to the USA Network in 2024. NXT is going to the CW. What do you anticipate the announcement being for Monday Night Raw whenever that does happen, Michael?
You know, your guess is as good as mine at this point. They're playing musical chairs with all these channels.
And ownerships too. Who owns what channel? Yeah.
Yep. And not only that, I think it'll be interesting. There's not, unless they do something real weird, like they jump back over to sci-fi or something like they did for a hot minute. Like, there's not too many huge players left that aren't already in the pro wrestling game.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see where it lands. But, you know, I hate to not answer your question, but your guess is as good as mine.
Well, that's my answer too. I did see a post today. This was just a random Facebook post that was speculating that TNT was a major bidder for the show right now. And it's not the first time that I've actually seen that. If that were true, what happens to AEW Collision? There's no way those two shows coexist on the same channel, is there?
I don't think so. I don't know how you possibly could.
I don't think WWE lets that happen.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, Collision of all things would probably be the one on the chopping block, and you know, there's just a lot of other things to do than watch Collision. No offense, AEW, my bad. But,
very true.
But it's just a lot of TV.
And it's a Saturday night, and why run it the entire college football season and then pull it?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I think we're going to see a lot of musical chairs of channels and shows and a lot of things happening here soon.
I bet you're right. You know, stay on that AEW train for a moment. Their top guy, their heavyweight champion, one with the triple B, MJF, has dislocated his hip. He did that following an elbow drop from the top rope to the floor against Jay White at Full Gear. But he also has a torn labrum in his left shoulder. Needless to say, pretty banged up, and he has a match set for World's End coming up on December 30th. Michael, how do you go into a match? Let's just working with somebody else, not suspending our disbelief and saying, oh, Samoa Joe's going to beat him up. He was going to beat him up anyway, but now that he's got a hurt hip, I'm just saying, how do you work with a hip that pops in and out of place and a shoulder that is torn, especially against some guy like Samoa Joe?
The two words that come to mind are very carefully.
And trust. How about that one?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the labrum, from what I've read, is moderate. Okay. You know, I think they've deemed that he's safe with it to some extent. I don't know how you function if your hip's screwed up. Whether in that match it comes out of place or not, the fact that it already did, you're milking that thing, feeling sore and not great for a while. And so, you know, he's a tough dude. Lots of love to him. But, man, I don't know how you pull it off. I really don't.
I'll tell you, if I lay wrong on the couch and my hip hurts, I'm done for the day, much less jump off the top rope and land on somebody on the floor, dislocating it. That is brutal. I hope he recovers soon, and I am anxious to see that match and see how that goes. I predict right now we're going to have a new champion. He just needs to lay off of it a little bit, chill for a little while, and what a great match they'll have coming back, and hopefully him winning it. We'll see. More from AEW here, and it came to us in the form of a Twix. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. She says this: MJF, live promo time, 7 minutes. Christian Cage, live promo time, 10 minutes. All of 2023, AEW Dynamite, Britt Baker, live promo time, 0 minutes. If this was a standalone tweet, I would maybe say, okay, this girl just kind of has a bug up her butt about something, but it's not just a single tweet that went out. It comes on the heels of many, many complaints of the time that women are given on AEW programming. Does a tweet like this from arguably your biggest women's wrestler in AEW move the needle at all for Tony?
That I don't know. Here's what I will say. We have seen over time mid-card women in any promotion complain about what they are or are not doing. And not because they're women, but because of their tangible, viewable talent in the ring or lack thereof.
Sure.
You shrug it off because it's like there's a reason you're not on TV.
Yeah.
In Britt Baker's case, that's not it. Britt Baker is one of the best, women's wrestlers on the planet today.
For real.
Not to mention the character work that she does as well. So when there's a shot across the bow like this, my hope is that you would take it seriously. Not even in terms of, women have to, rule the time slots, because that's not what's being asked. So how Tony reacts to that, I don't know, but it sounds like you got to do something.
Got to do something. I mean, she put it out there. It got a lot. I mean, you saw, we had it up on the screen, a lot of likes and really a lot of bookmarks. People saving this to see what happens later and to come back to it and reference it. So I'll be anxious to see where this goes in weeks to come, hopefully sooner than later. Michael, you have something for us in the vault this week. I'm excited to watch what you got.
Well, since we're already on topic this week, it seemed absolutely fitting to bring you what I believe is CM Punk's greatest match in the WWE. This match for some might be very, very familiar because it is referenced a lot in his career.
Yeah.
For others, being that it was over 10 years ago, maybe it's not as familiar. But what I want to bring to you is John Cena versus CM Punk at Money in the Bank 2011.
Okay.
What we see in this match is not only a barn burner of a match, but it came with this very interesting storyline. You can't say it's never been done before, because there's probably nothing new under the pro wrestling sun.
Sure, yeah.
But this had very interesting stakes to it. CM Punk was challenging John Cena, the existing WWE champion. But the interesting note was, at 12 midnight, after the Money in the Bank pay-per-view on Sunday, CM Punk's WWE contract was set to expire, and he said, I am not coming back. And so that night, all this anticipation, what's going to happen? Surely John Cena's going to win it, but CM Punk is red hot. What's going to happen? You're watching this match in just anticipation, not knowing what's going to happen. Then these two guys just literally burn the place down in terms of putting on a captivating match. And something that you don't see too often is John Cena losing clean to the best in the world, CM Punk. But that it doesn't stop there. CM Punk is celebrating and rejoicing in this moment. The commentators are like, oh man, what's going to happen? All of a sudden, Vince McMahon comes out, hell-bent to make sure that CM Punk doesn't go home and not come back with his championship, the WWE championship. And Vince, I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but Vince tries multiple tactics to make sure that Punk does not leave with that championship. But nonetheless, CM Punk blows a kiss to Vince McMahon, exits the crowd, with the WWE championship, jumps in a car, leaves through the lobby, jumps in a car, drives home with the WWE championship. That would jumpstart a series of matches with multiple different people that would ultimately lead us to what is dubbed the Summer of Punk, or the Year of Punk, in which his now broken record of 434 days as WWE champion, kicked off. There is so much dense wrestling history that happens 2011 through 2013. So many great matches, huge feuds with CM Punk. I want to challenge you guys. Go get on the WWE Network. Wow, I just said WWE Network. Get on Peacock. And
we do, now, to be fair, we do have several viewers over in the UK, and that is where you watch it if they're there. So
there you go.
You weren't wrong.
Jump on Peacock or the WWE Network, depending on where you're watching.
Yep.
Check out Money in the Bank 2011. Okay. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Just absolute phenomenal match.
If you need a reminder what that is, we have it under the heading The Vault. in the description of this episode. I can't wait to go watch that one. The wrestling world is growing. Shout out to Sammy Guevara and his wife, Ty Mello. They welcomed their new baby girl into the world this week, Luna. Also, same goes for Alexa Bliss and Ryan Cabrera. They welcomed a baby girl too. Congrats to both couples, and I anticipate training should start here in a couple weeks. Yep. I would think for both of those girls. All right, we do have more Punk to talk about. It's the biggest thing in wrestling this week, and for many weeks to come, I predict, especially when it comes to what's next. A lot of speculation going to be going out. We're going to see some of that unfold. So, Michael, I'm going to invite you to start this one. Now through WrestleMania 40, what do you see happening for CM Punk?
That's real tough because, to be quite honest with you, there's a lot to do. And,
but it'll be here before we know it. That's the thing.
It will be. It will be. I mean, we're already we're either in December or creeping on December. I have no idea what day it is.
We're in December for sure.
Okay. And
I'll remind you before Christmas. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It seems like him and Seth are probably going to go at it first. I don't know how long that goes because there could be some massive legs to that. Man, do we visit Cody? Man, does he get fed to Roman Reigns? Does he grab the World Heavyweight Championship? Man, I don't know.
Okay,
but there's a.
Let me ask you this. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to start with one. I want to start with let's say Seth, because that's where we see smoke coming, at least immediately. Roman Reigns hasn't addressed CM Punk coming back. Clearly, Seth Rollins has. Say they feud. Does that go from now all the way through WrestleMania 40? Does the match not happen until WrestleMania 40? Or do you see Punk doing like a Royal Rumble, winning it, and picking Seth?
I don't know. I would think the fact that Seth has the title right now complicates it. Because even though the beef's there, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for him to have a non-title matchup. No. Because that doesn't happen as often. Yeah.
But you could see Seth going, you don't get a shot at this unless you win the Royal Rumble. That could be a thing. Sure.
But I think it could be a one-off thing at a December PLE. I think it could be a 3 matches that need the rubber match,
Yep.
And, because that would take us to the pay-per-view before WrestleMania, if I'm counting them right.
Which I believe is Elimination Chamber, Perth, Australia.
I believe so.
Yeah.
But then where's the build up to being able to do something for Mania, assuming he's on the Mania card?
Right. I don't think you do that match before WrestleMania, but also, I think that right now that's where the smoke is. But now I'm going to give you another scenario. You've got history with one person in particular, and that is CM Punk and the wise man, Paul Heyman, who just happens to be with Roman Reigns. Although nothing has been said about Roman, how do you see a path where that becomes a conflict? And I see that there could be. Listen, Royal Rumble gives you the path to both of those. It gives you a path to go and taking on Seth Rollins or taking on Roman Reigns. There's stories for both. There's beef over here with Seth Rollins. There is a history and a battle of time together with he and Paul Heyman. They have a history together. So is that what happens to Roman Reigns' title reign? Is that Paul Heyman turns on Roman Reigns and sides with CM Punk? That could be an end to that. But if you do that, are we just forgetting about Cody Rhodes? There's a lot to think through here.
And this is the thing that I always have to remind myself of. Cody's beef is not with Roman Reigns.
Right.
Cody is trying to finish the story, and that does not have to involve Roman Reigns. And that's the thing that we have to remember.
Yeah.
So, let's play that out for a minute. We hear rumors that, dropping, kayfabe for a minute, that they want Roman Reigns to be the longest reigning champion of all time,
right,
short of Bruno Sammartino. which is kind of impossible if you think about it. But if that's the case, Roman still has to carry the title most of next year.
Oh, right.
And so with that said, it would be quite the shame to feed CM Punk to Roman Reigns, to have CM Punk lose when arguably, that's within just a few short months of his return. And when you're the most watched social media event, when you're that person, I don't know that person should be fed to Roman Reigns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you have a Roman Reigns caliber level star that is just elsewhere on the roster.
Yep.
So as great as that would be, I can't believe that would be anything before potentially SummerSlam next year.
Well, and here's something else too that could be a factor in all this. If you go the Roman Reigns route and you go the Paul Heyman route and you make Paul Heyman a factor, you now bring in a third member, and that's Brock Lesnar. And how crazy would it be to see Paul Heyman with 3 guys staring at him going, which one are you going to pick?
What's up, bro?
Which side are you on? You've got one to pick. You can't be on all 3. Let's go here. All right, so let's go through some scenarios. You got CM Punk perceivably could be winning the Royal Rumble because that would give him access to pick who he wants to battle for a title. And that would give him either Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns. And there's stories on both sides. A true heat perceivably with Seth Rollins, a storyline with the Wise Man, or the I can't remember what CM Punk would call Paul Heyman, but whatever he was, I think he probably just called him a manager. He's old school. He's a wrestler. That manager. I'm going to throw another thing in here. And it's because I just heard about it before we got on and I didn't say anything to you about it. I'm going to throw this one in the mix. CM Punk and Stone Cold Steve Austin, because there's smoke here as well. In fact, Fightful Select reported this on Thursday. They said this: Fightful Select has learned that upon CM Punk's return to WWE this past Saturday, there were several in the company pushing for the possibility of CM Punk to take on Stone Cold Steve Austin. So much so that we're told that Punk has even had discussions about the possibility. As of now, we're told many in WWE are hopeful and even optimistic that the match could finally be put together. I have a jacket on right now, and I've already read this once before, but I've never said it out loud, and I have chills. For me, that's the winner. That's what you do for WrestleMania 40. I don't know what you do with Seth Rollins. I think you do Cody. Because, listen, I know, I'm just speaking for myself, and you tell me what you think about this. I can't wait any longer for Cody to finish this story. We're in 2023 and we tweet and we Instagram, and whatever we said yesterday is a moot point today because things change so quickly. We've waited so long to see Cody finish his story. You have to do it at 40. I think that has to happen. And however it happens and however we get there, I don't care. I just want to see Cody Rhodes take on Roman Reigns in the main event of night number 2 and walk out of there the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. That leaves everything else up in the air. And man, I like this one. What about you?
I think you're right. We either have to eliminate Cody from the equation of Roman Reigns through WrestleMania.
Yep.
If it's not his time yet, you got to keep a football field between him and Roman Reigns.
No pun intended. Lincoln Financial.
If Cody gets fed to Roman Reigns again, it takes all the steam out of the story.
Yeah.
Him losing the first time, totally palatable. Totally palatable. Disappointing, but palatable.
Agreed.
A second time, that's a no-go. And so it's tough. And I have to zoom out. Bear with me for a minute. We are back to an age in professional wrestling where we cannot even fantasy book something because there are so many great players in the game. Yep. Can I get an amen from the choir loft?
Amen. Amen.
And, it's just such a great time to be a pro wrestling fan. And so what I do know is that WrestleMania is going to be lit this year. And when you look at just simply 5 years ago, when it was, Roman versus Brock 17, and it just seemed to be, the card just felt very stale for one reason or another. And you look where we are now, man, and just not even being able to put the pieces together because you don't know who will work with who. Man, just so cool.
Listen, we're going to take, as much as we love it, and this dream match, we're going to take that off the table for our question this week. So I want to ask you this. In our question of the week, who would you rather see at WrestleMania 40? Is it Cody, Seth, Punk, Reigns, or is it Cody, Reigns, Punk, Seth? You pick, let us know, find that question on our Instagram at WrestleChat Podcast, chime in, and we'll share your responses next week here on the show. Michael, having the chance to talk Punk today, has that let you come down from the high of the week, or did that just elevate you back up?
No, dude, it's such an exciting thing.
Yeah.
And again, I've talked a lot about where this time frame, when during his last run fell with my age and different things like that. Very special time for me in life. And so, very, very cool to see this coming full circle. And I know I'm not the only one. And I didn't follow him in OVW. I didn't follow him in Ring of Honor. I wasn't watching him, climbing from ceilings in barns, wherever I think it was in Kentucky or something like that. Yeah. So there are plenty of other diehard fans more than me, but man, it has been a long time since I can say that professional wrestling made my week.
Yeah.
And it really did. Just such a special time where I just felt like a kid again. And it's just it's invaluable. That feeling that pro wrestling can give you. So no, this has only, re-energized me, and I'm just excited to see, when he's going to be on TV next.
Yeah. Everybody's talking about CM Punk, everybody but Tony Khan. That's going to do it for us this week. For Michael Clavin, I'm the Ant-Man, and we'll see you next week on the Wrestle Chat Podcast.